the Emo Hour. Your weekly power hour of all things emo and adjacent. With your hosts, Katie and Nani.
Hello and welcome to the Emo Hour. I'm your host, Nani, with my good friend, Katie.
Hi, we're in person. Hello. Welcome home. I miss you.
It's so good to be back, though, and it's great to be in person with you because I think we've talked about this before, but it's just not the same when you're not in person.
No, and most of the times have been not in person, but that's okay. We're getting through it. Yeah,
for sure.
Are you feeling jet lagged?
I strangely am doing really great. I think it's because I forced myself through a lot of different time zones, and my body truly had no idea what time it is, and maybe it still doesn't know what time it is.
Yeah.
But generally, I'm actually doing pretty good.
Well, good.
I know, right?
You look great.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Well, should we just get into it?
Always.
So maybe you should ask me first.
Okay. What's making you emo?
And thank you. Great question. I feel like this is kind of stupid, but I didn't really have a good one. So I think what's making me emo this week is that there's been some great television lately that is done. Like 2 great shows that like just recently, both of them wrapped like right around the same time. And they were just so good and just great shows. So, and you have watched both of them. So the first one is The Traitors, which is on Peacock, which is, if you haven't heard of it, it's like a reality competition show that has like mostly kind of D-list celebrities, I guess you would say.
I would say that they actually raise in their ranking if they're on Traitors.
Yes.
Because it has become such a pop culture phenomenon. I'm obsessed with the show.
Yes.
You and I have been diehard fans since day one.
That's the other thing I was going to say is like, I introduced you to it season 1.
Yep.
And I remember some other people were like, I remember season 1 not getting hardly any traction. You know, it sure got some, but like it's become a phenomenon, like you just said. And season 1 was not that way. But
season 1 was also so different because it had like regular Joe Schmoes off the street, like you and I.
Yeah.
And then it had also like celebrities.
Yeah.
So it was weird to have that combo of the two. And then season 2 was only celebrities.
Yeah, which is, I think that was the right move. Like it is weird to have, you know, reality stars, D-list celebrities / influencers in a competition for money with regular people.
Yeah.
Like I didn't like that.
Yeah.
So I think one way or the other was the way that they needed to go. And they chose like to go the celebrity route, which I'm sure got them more viewers, honestly, moving forward. But it's a great show for you, especially because there's a lot of Survivor people and there's a lot of Big Brother people, which are 2 shows that you watch.
I should have worn my Jeff Probst shirt for this episode. Had I known this is what was going to make you emo, I should be wearing my Jeff Probst shirt.
Right.
He is king. I love him.
Who is the host of Survivor.
Exactly. If you don't know who Jeff Probst is, we have a much larger problem.
Well, I've never watched the show.
Ever?
Survivor. I mean, I've seen clips, but no, I've never watched the show.
You need to watch season 38, which is the
38. That's wild.
The only reason why I know that is because I recently watched something with this in it. But season 38 is the season with Mike White, who is the creator and writer of White Lotus.
Which is also going on. New season of White Lotus is out, and it's great.
I haven't watched a single episode yet just because I've been MIA. But Mike White, it's this David versus Goliath episode, and he is such a character.
I've seen clips from that.
Yeah, if you're gonna watch Survivor for the first time, like you might as well watch a really epic episode or epic season.
Yeah,
and it's season 38.
Okay,
so
38 is wild though. Survivor, I think, was like the original reality show, competition show.
Jeff Probst started. And he's still going. And the man has never looked better.
Oh, really?
Oh, my God. He like doesn't age. I don't know what his deal is. That's why I got a shirt to commemorate just his general fantasticness.
Oh, great.
I digress. Back to Traitors, though.
Yeah. I was going to say we didn't even really get into Traitors. Traitors is a reality competition show that is hosted by Alan Cumming. It's on Peacock. And it has, like we said, kind of D-list celebrities, a lot of people that were on Survivor, a lot of people that were on Big Brother, Real Housewives, The Bachelor, just influencers. I mean, it's a whole gamut. Other reality shows.
I was going to say a lot of reality TV, quote unquote, like stars. And then random people like Dylan Efron, who was known as Zac Efron's brother, but now
He's Dylan Efron.
he's Dylan Efron.
Yeah. And they compete. They are in this castle in Scotland. It's Alan Cumming's castle. And they have different missions that they do every day to like try to win more money. And the missions are weird and bizarre and fun to watch. But the real like juicy part of the show is that they have secret traitors within the group who every single night get together and choose who they're gonna murder. As Alan Cumming always says.
And his outfits alone on the show are maybe one of the
so good. So good. And they the traitors murder someone every night. They obviously don't actually get murdered, but like they're playing up to the drama of the show.
By murdered, they mean they're voted off the show.
Yeah, exactly. So
voted off the island.
The next morning, they read a letter that says you've been murdered, and then they're done. And it starts out with like 24 contestants, I think. So it's a big group of people. And then everybody, they do a round table every single night where they're trying to banish other people who they think are traitors. Yeah. So like 2 people get kicked off pretty much every single episode. Either you're banished or you're murdered.
And when you're murdered, it happens quietly. Nobody knows. When you're banished, it is a very large display of like
in front of everybody at the round table. It gets very intense. And what they show on the show, I'm sure, is just like a small portion of what the round table actually is.
Whoever's the editor for this show deserves an Oscar because truly it is
so good.
Like the editing is amazing. And the costume design people deserve.
Yeah. Well, and this season, production value and costumes went up so much. Like
it got popular.
It's high quality television.
It really is
now. So that just wrapped. I don't know if I should spoil it.
I mean, if you haven't watched it yet, you should watch it. And there's spoilers everywhere. So
yeah,
it like the end of this season ended in a very wholesome way because 4 people won together.
Yeah, with 4 faithful. So if you're not a traitor, you're a faithful. And it was the winners were Gabby Windy, who we know, who was on The Bachelor as a contestant on Clayton's season, which we watched The Bachelor.
Love her so much.
And then she was a co-bachelorette with Rachel later, and then now she's lesbian and she got married.
She got married to her partner.
To comedian partner Robbie Hoffman. She, I think, gained the most popularity this season from Traitors.
Probably that and Dylan Efron, I would guess.
Yeah, that's the next person I was going to say. Dylan Efron, too, has just like blown up. He's done some movies. He does a lot of adventure stuff. So he did, maybe it wasn't a movie. It was Down to Earth with like Dylan and Zach. They did a bunch of like travel stuff, and that was on Netflix. So like
the world,
he's kind of an influencer already, but like was pretty low key. He's definitely gained a lot more notoriety. So they won along with Lord Iver, who's part of the British royal family, which is like, what? Okay.
It's so random. I don't actually understand how royal he is, but he has some lineage to the royal family. He is a lord.
Yeah, and he explained it in one of the early episodes, like his relation, and I don't remember what
He's
it was.
Like an 11th cousin, probably.
No, I think it was closer than that.
Okay.
And then Dolores, who's one of the Real Housewives, which I don't know her last name because I've never watched the Real Housewives, but all 4 of them won as faithfuls, which is just, it was cute and heartwarming. And they have, the people on that show who are either from Survivor or Big Brother who have played these other competition reality shows, they would have been cutting more people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so.
Well, and the pot of money was like $200,000. So each of them won, roughly maybe 50 grand.
Yeah.
After taxes and all that.
Right.
I listened to a podcast that Dylan Efron was on talking about stuff. And he's like, you know what? He's like, I could have cut somebody, but there was no reason, because if you think about it, after taxes is looking bad in front of millions of people on TV worth $8,000?
Yeah.
Probably not.
Right.
Like in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah, I love the fact that 4 people won together.
Yeah, it was great.
Because there's been some epic, like the past seasons, I don't even remember them like fully, but they were really like epic ends. I remember.
They were like pretty brutal.
Yeah.
So this one was like heartwarming and cute. And it's just such a good show. And I was obsessed with it the first season. You watched it right after I told you to.
I got my tonsils out at, an adult age. Super cool to get your tonsils out. Yeah. I just sat here like foaming at the mouth, staring at the TV.
You're like, what is this?
Yeah. I needed something to do.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a time.
Yeah. But now it's gained the popularity that it should. So, and also it's on Peacock, which is something that I don't feel like a lot of people have necessarily.
Thank God you have it. That's all I have to say.
Well, I only got it for Traitors, and now I still have it. So that was one. And if we have time, the other one is Love is Blind that just wrapped, which you have a special connection to in certain ways. And a lot of people are saying that this season of Love is Blind was a little more boring and there was less drama and it was very like Midwest nice because they were in Minnesota.
Yep. I was like, what's my special connection? And then I realized, it was in the Twin Cities, which was so cool because I think I told you this. What I loved is that I knew all the neighborhoods. I knew like they were making references to things, and it just made me feel like I was one of them because I knew, like, I felt like we had a lot, like, it sounds kind of psycho for me to say this out loud as I'm saying it, but like when you can reference like when you meet a stranger for the first time and you both have a commonality, it's kind of the same idea of watching a TV show and then being in a city that's not regularly kind of broadcast.
Yeah.
And so it was cool to see the Twin Cities get some love.
Right. And it did. And like I said, a lot of people are saying it was a little bit boring and that people were like too nice and there wasn't enough drama.
Yeah, Midwest nice. That's why they're wholesome awesome people.
Yeah. But I just, Love is Blind.
Come on.
Love is Blind is so good. And who's the one that you're referring to?
The one dude that like couldn't get over the fact that
Dave.
Yes.
Dave.
Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, that was really kind of the major drama that happened like during the season leading up to the wedding was Dave.
Yeah.
Not getting over this like hookup that his fiance had prior to going on the show.
So silly.
Yeah, so silly.
I feel like they actually had a connection.
Yeah.
And
they're just self-sabotage.
Absolute self-sabotage. And it was so sad to watch. And it also was, and she kept saying that he wasn't a narcissist or he wasn't this, wasn't that. But I'm curious. I'm really curious because it was hard to watch because he was just being such a butthead.
Yeah.
And could not get over some very, like, it wasn't that big of a deal.
When he was trusting everyone else but his fiance.
Which is the wrong thing.
Totally the wrong thing.
You got to do the right research, man.
Yeah. And then actually, do you know this other, have you looked up the guy that she had a hookup with?
No.
I have on Instagram.
Tell me more.
He looks like a total D-bag.
Oh, man. Maybe she has a type.
So yeah, I think I watched her on some podcast. Her name is Lauren. She's very sweet, very down to earth, like very
Midwest nice.
Very Midwest nice. She seems like she has a level head on. She seems totally reasonable, but I think she made some comment about how she doesn't have the greatest taste in men.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, this other guy, I looked him up on Instagram because I don't know, because I'm a creep, and I looked it up and
a weirdo.
I'm a weirdo. Thank you.
No, sorry. I just was quoting a Radiohead song.
Radiohead.
I'm a
gotcha.
creep. I'm a weirdo. Yeah.
And he just looks like he's like a bodybuilder. He's also a lawyer, apparently, which I feel like lawyers that are like get any sort of fame from reality shows always end up being D-bags. That's how I feel as a lawyer. So I don't ever want to get any fame from a reality show because I feel like it doesn't work out well.
If I were to ever try out for like Survivor or Big Brother?
What do you mean?
Like, what if you got adjacent fame from me being on a reality TV show? I was on The Price is Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Which we should probably talk about this on that, or talk about that on the show at some point.
We should talk about that at some point. But anyway, that's all that's to say is that I just was watching some really what I consider good reality TV, and they both ended like right at the same time. And I was just like, why are these ending at the same time? Like, I want more of both of them.
I will agree with you because I felt like there was this sounds so sad. There's definitely a void when it ends.
Yeah.
Because you're so invested for weeks, right?
Right.
And then all of a sudden you're done cold turkey. It's like there's nothing left. And to have two really awesome programs at the same time.
Right.
Thank
you. That's exactly how I feel.
Oh my God. I love that that's what was making you emo.
Yeah. I do have to say that Love is Blind, like there's only one couple that ended up getting married. I was very surprised, especially given the low level of drama throughout the season, that the three others that went to the altar said no at the altar.
Yeah.
Like,
So I'm going to say
Midwest nice to me seems like you would break it off before that point.
no. I think that Midwest nice means like they don't have the chutzpah to like say this isn't working for me,
Yeah.
or it's like slightly maybe passive aggressive.
Right.
And so it like the confrontational aspect of things I think can be pushed aside under the rug, whatever it may be, and that doesn't give you drama, but that also gets you to the end, and it's like, and we're not going to get married.
Yeah.
But
But that's a big thing. Like they on the show, they go to the altar
yeah,
in front of their friends and family. They spend the entire day getting ready, doing all the things, putting on their wedding dress, doing their makeup with their friends and family, and then say no at the altar. And it's wild. And there was 3 of them that did that. It was all very nice breakups, though, I guess I will say. It was always like, they were all like, I love you. It's just not, I'm not there. You know, it's it's not time.
Yeah, and there's a couple of them I was like, we're going to give this a try, right? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So anyway,
That part, that's some crazy TV to be on right there.
yes.
I don't know. For a second, as I was watching at the beginning, I was like, maybe I'll sign up for this.
Yeah,
No.
because the next season is in Denver, which is relatively close.
It's pretty. We have a direct flight there.
We do.
We can get there pretty quick.
Yeah.
Just hours from Denver.
Yeah. Jessica Lahore,
love
favorite
her.
drag queen. Shout out to Miss Jessica.
We love Jessica Lahore.
Yes.
We've had some
You
times
particularly love Jessica Lahore.
because she's literally one of the best performers I've ever seen in my entire life. She
She's
should be
great.
what's making me emo, but it's not. But I love her.
Someday we can talk about her more.
Yeah, we should. We should have
What
her on
is
the pod.
what is making you emo this week?
Well, thanks for asking. I would say so. I know that we're probably going to talk quite a bit about my travels on this episode. I guess the second half of my travels. But what's making me emo is I this weekend had like a college reunion, and I didn't realize it was going to be such a college reunion. And so I got to see friends from oh my God, it's like crazy to say this, but like over a decade ago. Like
Wow.
friends from because I graduated in 2010. Graduated college in 2010, which oh my God.
Yeah.
And just seeing people that I hadn't seen in a while, hearing about them, their lives, their families, just it was like no time had passed, but so much time had passed because
Right.
frankly, we don't all look the same.
Sure.
You know, like we don't look the same.
Yeah.
But we are still like the same wonderful human beings at our core. And it was just epic. And the reason why this college reunion happened is because I went to the 20-year anniversary of Between the Heart and the Synapse, the record from the Receiving End of Sirens. And
Which was in Boston.
And a lot of those band members went to my alma mater, Northeastern University. And so we have that in common. And I've known those guys for a really long time, but 20 years since that record came out, and it's such an amazing record.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that because that is part of my travels, but that's definitely what's making me emo because it was just so amazing to see these people who I didn't really realize the bonus that I was going to get by going to these concerts.
With seeing all these old friends.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I cried multiple times over the weekend of just like pure joy and happiness.
Yeah.
And it just felt amazing. It was like a cup filling weekend for me.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a good segue into the topic of the day, which is just a repeat or a continuance of your travels. Because our last episode we wrapped up, you were in Korea, but all we had really talked about was like your time in Japan.
Yeah, I guess.
Mexico and Japan. Mexico, Vegas, and Japan. Sorry, I meant to say we concluded at your time in Japan.
In Japan, yeah. And we definitely talked about Bob Moses. I know that.
We did. We sure did.
Oh, God, I love that band. Well, so from Japan, I went to Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to Korea for a few reasons. One, I had spent some time there, like days. They have this really cool program. I have to talk about it on this podcast because I want people to know about it. But if you're ever flying around the world somewhere and you have a layover in South Korea, in Seoul specifically. It's the Incheon Airport. Their code is ICN. And if you ever have a long layover there, which there happens to be quite a few long layovers,
Yeah.
purely because if you're traveling, from Seattle and you're going to Indonesia, the likelihood of you having at least a 7-hour layover is pretty high.
Yep.
And so the very smart South Korean government decided we should take advantage of these 7 hours and not let people just like sit in this airport, which it is like the number 1 or number 2 airport in the world.
Oh, wow.
It's a beautiful airport. But what they've done is created this transit tour program. So what you do when you land is you go to the transit tour desk and you sign up and you get whisked away. You get expedited through customs onto a tour bus, and they'll take you to go kimchi tasting, or they'll take you to go to the DMZ, which is the demilitarized zone, which is the area between North and South Korea, or they'll take you downtown Seoul to go shopping, or whatever it may be. So you can get a taste of the city.
Okay.
And it's so cool. Or they'll take you to temples. Like there's just so many cool tours that they have to offer, and it's all free.
Great.
All of it's free.
Wow.
So I've spent a decent amount of time in Seoul because of these programs. I've done like some of these tours, but I've never actually left the airport, spent the night. Like it's always been kind of day trips that I've experienced. So I got to spend a nice chunk of time in Seoul, South Korea.
Right.
So I went and got some facial treatments done.
Because that is, South Korea is known for skincare.
For its beauty. Yep.
Yeah.
For all of the skincare and skin treatments. And they're way, way less expensive. Like a hydrofacial in the States, depending on where you are, but generally it's like $150 to $250. They're $30.
Yeah.
In Seoul.
Right.
And then, and so I got a couple things done, which was really lovely. And then no like real cosmetic procedures, but people get that done all the time.
Yeah. Just like treatments.
Yeah. And then oh gosh, I think I talked about this on the last podcast, but I love to walk. And it's a good thing and a bad thing when you're in Asia, because the way that Asia is it's layers of stores. So like the most amazing thing could be 4 floors up and you would never see it from street level. Or it could be underneath you. Like they've got shopping malls underground in the subways.
Wow.
It's kind of mind boggling. So that's the one thing is I feel like you have to go back and really spend time in order to get a real, like to be able to see a decent amount of stuff. But I feel like I did quite a bit. So, I did so much walking. I did one of those hop on, hop off buses in Seoul because I love doing those when you're traveling solo. It's just an easy, quick way to kind of get the lay of the land. I did some interesting wholesale shopping because you know me, I am very comfortable in wholesale markets from just my days in the textile industry. And so one night I was there until like 1 a.m. and I know I was texting you and I was like, I should be in bed right now. I should not be at the wholesale markets buying things, but here I am. She's like, do you want my advice? Or do you want me to just tell you you're doing great?
And I think you said, I don't know what I want.
Exactly.
And then I gave you advice that you didn't ask for.
Exactly. But I love that. That's what friendship is. And that was so much fun. And we did a food tour, which was so crazy. There's that, what is it? It's like Asia's Eats or Street Eats in Asia. It's a Netflix series, and there's an episode specifically on Seoul, and there's a woman who's highlighted on that episode. She makes these hand-cut noodles like in this really rich broth. She also does dumplings. Anyways, we had her food stall. The food was like insanity. It was so good. It was so good. And what else? And then I did a tour that I've been wanting to do, this tour of the DMZ as well. Oh, I should mention, I didn't know that this was going on, but when I was in South Korea, they are in the middle of a pretty divided political climate, which was a very interesting thing to kind of walk into. Because at first I thought it was really all about like gay pride, because there were a lot of LGBTQ plus flags around the city and with a bunch of Korean writing. And obviously I can't read that. And so I was like, oh, cool. Like they're, standing up for rights and whatever. Yeah. But it turns out, no, that's not really the case. I mean, it is and it isn't. But right now, I learned, and I'll just give a very quick overview of it, but because I'm obviously not an expert, but last December, I think it was December 6th, the sitting president in Korea declared martial law, and the martial law existed for like 4 hours, and then they ended the martial law. They said that what he did was illegal. They put him in prison. And then he got out of prison the day that I landed in Korea.
Wow.
So they were having like riots, essentially. Well, the Korean version of riots throughout the city.
Which is different?
Yeah, they're very peaceful. They're like banging drums.
Okay.
It's quite
peaceful protest.
It's very beautiful.
Yeah.
And banging drums or like singing songs or whatever it may be. So it was awesome to see people raising their voices and speaking up. So I don't know what's going to happen. So the president is currently out of prison, but he's in this in between land because right now the government is trying to decide whether or not they're going to impeach him for what he did. And so I don't know which side of the aisle is correct in this instance. So I guess we'll see what is decided from the government there, but the country is definitely divided right now. And it was interesting to learn about because I learned about it from reading some articles, and then I also talked to the tour guide, which is my next thing I was going to talk about. I went to the DMZ, and the tour guide from the DMZ, she had a lot to share with me about kind of the current political climate, but the tour to the DMZ was wild.
Yeah.
So I mentioned it just briefly earlier. Sorry, I just feel like I'm on a total monologue right now.
No. Do you want me to interject more?
If you want, if you have questions, you should.
Well, right. But what a wild time to be there is the only thing I have to say so far.
Yeah. Didn't know that was happening. I know we talked and I was like, so it's kind of interesting here right now. And
I was also like, sounds awfully familiar
I know, right?
with the U.S. political climate.
And it's funny you say that because they meaning like there's so many Australians over there. And so some Australians and whatnot, they were like, you should be pretty familiar with this. I'm like, funny joke. It's funny until you're in it.
Too real too soon.
Yeah, too real too soon. And so we went on this DMZ tour. And for those who, I mean, I guess I'll just give a quick overview of it. So the DMZ is the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea. Mm-hmm. And it's, I believe, either 4 kilometers long, where there's 2 kilometers on each side, or maybe 2 kilometers. It's not a very long distance. It's very close. Mm-hmm. And there's layers of fencing, of electric fencing. There's landmines in between the 2 places. It's a pretty intense thing to see.
Right.
And tensions right now between North and South Korea are not great.
Right.
They're worse than they have been in some time. And the thing that's really interesting to know is that the history between the separation of the two quote unquote, we'll call them countries, it's not that old. It's only like 70 years old, like 1953, I think. Okay. Something like that. We're not that far out from this being.
Right.
And so it was kind of beautiful to hear how much it sounds like people are wanting to reunify with North Korea, because what happened is a lot of families were split. So a lot of people in South Korea have family members that are in North Korea, and those family members are still alive, because like there's grandmas that are still alive that were alive when it was all one country. Right? Like, how bonkers is that?
Yeah, that is wild.
So you could have a brother or an uncle or a grandma or whatever, and family's everything. You know, I think for a lot of people, but like in Asian countries specifically, I feel like family is everything. And
very cultural, for sure.
Yeah, and it's just like heartbreaking to hear all of this. And, you know, there have been some things that they've tried to do. Like, there's some South Korean business people who put together money to build a factory in a town that's just north of the border between the two. And this factory was making clothing and whatnot, and it was going really great for a while. You know, it was good for both places. It was a reunifying kind of aspect, we'll call it, like maybe one step in the right direction. And then out of nowhere, North Korea bombed the road, and then the bridge that goes to the factory, and then South Korea pulled out completely, and then North Korea bombed the factory. I'm like, if North Korea is going to bomb the factory, don't bomb that. Just take over the factory and use it for yourself. But
Yeah.
what do I know? Anyways, yeah,
Not a
like
lot of reason happening over there, I don't think,
no.
in their decision making.
Yeah, and I think that, I think that it's one of those things where I obviously don't know. I don't know the ins and outs. My foreign politics
Sure.
knowledge is limited.
Right.
But what I do know is that, like, it is obvious to me that there is just a desire for the people of North Korea and South Korea to be reunified, because they're all the same, right? And it just sucks that, like, these people in North Korea don't really have any concept of life beyond what they're currently living.
Right.
Like, there aren't any there's not really cars. They're riding bicycles. They're living decades behind us.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah, it's just a completely and so from the DMZ, you can go and tour the tunnels that were being secretly dug by North Korea into South Korea to attack Seoul. You can look into North Korea right now. Because tensions are so high, and they have the ability to, like, shut down tours and everything at any given second if they think that anything's going to happen.
Yeah.
It does feel a little
Spooky.
spooky when you're there.
Yeah.
But no, like, I would say that South Korea is also very safe. They want to be sure that people aren't going to be harmed. But this building that they have built, it overlooks this town. I think it's the fourth largest city in North Korea, right over the border. And you can look into, like, these different areas. Both countries have huge flags flying of the North and South Korea.
Yeah.
The area where Trump and Kim Jong-un met, like, on North Korean land, was, like, right in the distance. You could see all of these things that have been kind of put out in media, but it was nuts. The whole experience was nuts, and you could see people looking through binoculars, like people riding bikes, and just like
like you looked through binoculars? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
And then so you could see, like, they're not living in, like, modern day times.
Yeah, it just
Which reminded me of, we share our locations with each other.
Yeah.
And when you got to Korea, your location, I should say, your location was in Japan at the airport. Like, and when it didn't track you in Korea at all.
Right. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
I was never in Korea.
Yeah. According
Based
to
on
your
Find a Friend.
based on Find Your Friends. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty big indicator. I don't even know what other words to use.
And I don't know, maybe that's a safety measure. I'm not sure. Like, it's pretty crazy, but I'm so glad I did that tour. I highly recommend it if you're ever in the area, because I think that it's really eye-opening. And I really hope that they find they find a path. The one thing also, if we want to bring it back to music and emo and whatever, is the South Korean government they have huge speakers that are sending music and sending voices of, like, come to South Korea, we will take care of you.
Oh, wow.
Like, if you defect North Korea, know that we will take you in. We will will, like, re-educate you, in the sense of, like, educate them with, modern times.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure that they've just been
Brainwashed
with propaganda and stuff too.
Yeah.
So,
and they'll set them up, like, they give them a home, they set them up for success, essentially.
Wow.
So, but in order to defect, it's actually quite an intense process, because you can't really go, the shortest distance would be, like, direct, right? But there's landmines, there's all these things in between.
scary.
So a lot of people will defect. They'll go, like, through China all the way down through Thailand and over. It's like a very long journey, and it's very expensive. And so,
Yikes.
yeah, it's I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. And so that was my regurgitation of that specific experience. But it's a beautiful country. South Korea is amazing to see what they've done with their country. I mean, when they separated from North Korea, or I should say when the two entities separated, they were not the strongest. They were not the strongest in all of the countries, right? And so they had a lot of help from some friends, and through that, in the last 70 years, that is capitalism at its finest right there, because they've built huge companies. They're now one of the, like, they're just a very wealthy country that have done very well for themselves.
Wow.
And so, I mean, they're firing on all cylinders. Like, they've got Hyundai, and they've got the skincare. They're just known for many things, and
Right.
it just was very cool. So
Yeah, what a wild experience and weird thing that's real life, and that's happening now. Like
yeah,
the way that you describe some of that stuff, it feels like that's just in movies, or that's part of history not happening currently.
Yeah.
And it absolutely is.
yeah. And speaking of movies, the tour guide told me that there's quite a few good movies about different defectors, and I
Yeah,
watched
I'm
one of them on
sure.
my flight.
Oh, good.
Which was a little more intense than I was planning on watching on my
Yeah.
flight. But it was a great movie. So if you're interested in that stuff, there are movies out there about it. But speaking of my flight from Seoul, I should mention too, like, K-pop, very much alive and well.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It's so amazing. Please go to Seoul. It's the best. I shopped a little bit too much. What are you going to do?
What are you gonna do?
You only live once.
You're on vacation.
Yeah.
Treat yourself.
Treat yourself. So then from Seoul, I flew directly to Boston.
Yeah. How long was that flight?
It was on paper, it said it was 13 and a half hours. The winds were not in our favor, though. So ended up being a little over 14 hours, which I think might be the longest flight I've ever been on. I've done LA to Sydney, Australia, and that was probably my second longest flight. I can't remember how long that one was. But
Yeah.
somebody was asking me, like, how was it? Surprisingly, it was amazing.
Oh, amazing.
It was amazing. So we took off at 9. We took off Friday at 9 a.m. We landed Friday at 9:30 a.m.
Yeah, that's wild.
It literally was a 30-minute flight.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
yeah.
by
It literally was a 13 and a half hour flight.
yeah,
But
yeah, literally a 13-hour flight. Oh my God, I'm thinking of
you
so many
just
other things about
traveled back in time.
truth. I'm thinking about so many other things about North Korea now that I'm like, I'm like, time. Like, their calendar isn't even based off of our calendar. It's
What?
based around his birthday, the leader's birthday.
Whoa.
I know.
Yikes.
And the Kim Jong-un took his dad off all the money in North Korea because his dad was like too highly regarded, he thought. And so
God.
he put like pictures of buildings and trees on the money. He took away his dad's face off of. Anyways, I digress.
Wow.
I'm done with my North Korea talk.
Maturity.
Yeah. It's just wild stuff. Anyways, but this flight was insane. It was so cool because normally when I am on a long haul flight, I feel like it's either too short or it's just like a weird length. And so 14 hours was actually quite great because I got on the flight. I have a ritual. I'm going to share my ritual really quick.
Okay.
So I got on the flight. I sat down. Nobody was seated next to me, which is the biggest gift ever.
Yes.
And I have this little blow up like leg rest thing, which I
Okay.
realize is so ridiculous, but it is
not on a 14-hour flight.
works miracles.
Yeah.
And so I blew that sucker up.
You can like get blood clots and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So,
I
yeah.
wear
compression socks.
compression socks.
Yeah.
Compression socks are so wonderful.
Yeah.
Love them. So compression socks on, blow up my little thing. I have this ritual of changing out of my outfit that I walked on the plane into pajamas.
Oh, okay.
I highly
in your seat, you change?
No, I went to the bathroom like a normal human. And
Of course, I know.
And so then I got back to my seat. We were served dinner, which Korean Airlines, they have great food on their airline, just have to say.
Good.
And so had a little bit of a bite and then was watching a show at the same time, finished that movie. So we're maybe 2 hours into the flight. I decide, okay, it's time to go to sleep. So I go to sleep and I adjust my little leg rest thing into like kind of a slant. So I feel like I'm frankly sitting in a lazy boy recliner.
Right.
It was so comfortable. I fell asleep for
Great.
5 hours.
Perfect.
Woke up, went to the bathroom, went back to sleep, fell back asleep for another 5 hours.
Perfect.
Woke back up. We were served another meal, had a little bite, had some Coke Zero because that's who I am.
Because of course.
And then changed out of my clothing, brushed my teeth, like did all the things to kind of prepare, put a face mask on because I was in Korea. And
Yeah, hydrate.
yeah,
Your-
hydrate that
your
face.
skin.
And then we land in Boston and I felt like $1 million.
Great.
It was the craziest thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's, yeah, you That was perfect.
Honestly, it was so great. And then I
Yeah.
land there, I get to the customs control, and who's there but like the hottest Boston guy who's like an agent, and I just have this shit eating grin on my face. So I'm like, of course I land in Boston, and I have like the most good looking customs agent, and I just was smiling at him the whole time, and I probably look like a absolute psycho. And he's like, "What are you doing here?" And I'm like, just going to see my friend's band and having, you know." He's like, "Where were ya?" And so, yeah. So I couldn't stop smiling. It was pretty ridiculous.
Oh, that's funny.
But and then, so then I got to Boston, and one of my best friends from college, Finney, picked me up, and we hit the ground running because, like I said, it was like 9:30.
Right.
Well, by the time I got through everything, it was about like probably 10:30. But
Yeah.
she picked me up, and we, speaking of walking, we walked around Boston. We went down to our old school, did a little drive through of Northeastern University and over by Fenway Park, and just saw some of the changes that have existed. And then we, pretty quickly, like it was time for us to get ready and go to some concerts. So
Yeah.
we went to the Menzingers, who were opening up for Dropkick Murphys at MGM Concert Hall, which is attached to Fenway Park.
Okay.
So
cool.
we started off there and met a bunch of really great people. Concert was awesome. The lead singer of the Menzingers looked like he was an accountant. And I've never seen a lead singer or performer jump so much on stage. I literally looked at Finney. I was like, his knees have got to hurt. Like there's just no way.
Yeah.
He looked like Patrick, like as if Patrick Stump really leaned into a comb over and like was wearing like a suit. It was
Right.
it was very much a weird look.
Yeah.
Or actually, it was like Rivers Cuomo from Weezer and Patrick Stump combined in one person.
Okay.
It was the strangest, but they sounded great. I felt like I got my St. Patrick's Day fulfillment
Right.
by being at that concert.
Good.
So that was great. And then we left early. We didn't actually see Dropkick Murphys because we needed to make it over to the Sinclair, which is in Cambridge, over by Harvard University, Harvard. And
Harvard.
they and the Receiving End of Sirens were doing a warm-up show. And the very special thing about being able to go to this is that it was a room capacity of like 400 people. And the next night they were playing to like 4,000 people.
400. That's wild.
I know, right? And so we went over to that, saw the show. I had an out of body experience. It was just the most amazing thing ever.
Yeah.
Finney like filmed me losing my shit pretty much.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, I need to show it to you. And
Maybe we should post that on our socials.
Yeah, I could. And I've got so many videos to post on our socials, but I've posted one to our TikTok at least. But it was just the most amazing thing to see them in such a small room.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the show, got to see the band members, give them all hugs. They're all like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you came here from freaking South Korea."
Yeah.
And then
this is the day you landed still.
Yes.
Yeah, wild.
I know, right?
That's a big day.
Yeah. And then I got to see friends from college, back to this whole thing of like college reunion. I saw people that I was not expecting to see.
Yeah.
It was just so cool. Saw friends from the industry, from the music industry, like their agent was up there. Friends who are tour managers came up. It was just like, it was as if like somebody pressed the B minor or E flat or whatever key on the keyboard for the beginning of the My Chemical Romance song. It's as if they like called all the emos back to Boston.
Right.
And by that I mean like really these are all solid humans that like came up with, if you will, in college, and all music industry people.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to see one of our favorite bands get together for the first time in 13 years.
Wild.
13 years.
Yeah.
And so the show at the Sinclair was insane. Of course, it was sold out. And then the next day, and then so I got to see everybody that night. Just tears, smiles, just everything, all the emotions.
Joy.
So much joy, so much joy. And I went to bed with just the biggest smile on my face. And then the next day, we did, meaning Finney and I, did a walk around the north end of Boston, and kind of downtown area. And then we went over by the Charleston, by the Navy Yards, and then we went back to her place, got ready, and went to the second show.
Yeah.
And thank God, because one night wouldn't have been enough.
Yeah.
Like, it was so good that it was like, I need this again.
Yeah.
So the second night we were at Roadrunner, which Finney actually opened and was the GM of Sinclair, and Open was the GM of Roadrunner.
Oh, cool.
Both venues.
Great.
So Roadrunner is a 4,000 capacity room.
Yeah.
And so also sold out, of course.
Yeah.
And it was such a different night, but also just as amazing.
Yeah.
And they switched their set around a little bit. The production was a little bit bigger. And it was just so cool because the band on both the nights brought out the original lead singer to sing one song, like the old school singer.
Okay.
At one point, Casey Crescenzo, who is also in a band called the Deer Hunter, he left the Receiving End of Sirens, also referred to as TREOS. I'll say TREOS from now on. But he left TREOS, and in came Brian Southall, who Brian's been a part of many other entities. He's also a tour manager. When I was on Warped Tour, he was out with Motion City Soundtrack.
Okay.
And I think my memory serves me right there. He was with, Motion City Soundtrack. And anyways, so this was the first, like really the first time that every single band member that has ever been in existence in TREOS, they were all together.
Wow.
So Casey was there, Brian was there. They were hugging. It was really the first time that the two of them got to really meet and bond. There was always awkwardness because it was like Casey left, Brian came in. It was just like this. You know, when somebody leaves a band, it's not always amicable, and so it's so awesome to see everybody back together. So much love, so much care for each other, and they were just firing on all cylinders. Their voices were impeccable. Alex, the lead singer, well, there's many lead singers, but Alex specifically, I went up to him and I said, "What in the hell did you do to your vocals, man?"
Yeah.
I was like, "You sound better than you have ever sounded before." And he's like, "I put a lot of work into it." He's like, "So thank you so much for saying that."
Yeah, I'm
Because
sure he loved hearing that.
they all sounded amazing, but I just was like, he's got some part. Casey's voice too. He has an amazing voice. So does, I mean, they all do, but it was amazing to me that 13 years have gone by. They had never performed really in between then. Casey has been because he's in the Deer Hunter, but for Brendan and Alex, like they didn't really perform all that much, at least to my knowledge. And to see them come back, not skip a beat, and sound better than ever, it was just insane.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And they're all doing different things, right? Like Andrew, who is the drummer of TREOS, he's the drummer for Dan and Shay. Or Brian is still a tour manager. He's tour managed like Pharrell and all sorts of different people.
Yeah.
And they're all still very much like music adjacent, but this is, it was a very special night.
Yeah.
And just getting to see them again. I feel so fortunate to have been able to be in the room both nights. And I feel so fortunate to have seen so many people who I love and to express my love to those people.
Yeah.
And it was just absolutely incredible.
Good.
Like truly incredible. And seeing people from college. There was one thing that I got a little uncomfortable with, and it was so funny. I think I told you this story, but after the second show, we were in this like post-show party, and I was talking to a bunch of different friends, and one friend introduced me to this person. He's like, "Oh, do you guys know each other?" And I was like, "I don't think so." And he's like, "I know you." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "You're Nani." And he knew me by first and last name. And I was like, "Wait, what?" This is uncomfortable because you know me and you know my last name and you are making all these references and I can't place you.
Yeah.
And this sucks for me because I loved, I'm a people person.
Yeah.
And so anyways, he knew me because when I was a senior in college, he was a freshman in college. And I booked all the concerts on our university campus and blah, blah, blah. But And it was so cool because we had a chance to catch up, talk. He's now doing music management
Okay.
and killing it. And
So he looked up to you
I guess so.
as a little
He
freshman.
made a comment though when he was doing. He's like, "I'm not trying to like call out your age or anything." I was like, "How old are you?" And he's like, 35. I'm like, "We're literally 2 years apart." So
Oh.
yeah.
Well, that's weird that you were 4 years apart in school.
Well, I don't know. Maybe he started late, and I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
The math ain't mathin' over here, but that's fine.
I guess if we're 3 years apart, but still the math wouldn't be math in there.
Well, I mean, okay, birthdays make a difference now.
Yeah.
He probably, yeah, whatever. We don't need to figure that out. But he looked up to you. Let's go back to that.
That could be an age.
No, I didn't mean it like that. No, because he was obviously interested in music management. And that's what you were doing for the university. So I'm sure he paid attention.
Yeah, well, kind of. I was booking shows, and he got into a lot of stuff, and then he eventually made it into management, and so it's cool to see people that you came up with doing really cool stuff, and everybody seems to be doing really, really well. But like, we're just also happy to see each other. That like it is. Yeah, it was just the best.
Were many of them still living in Boston, or most of them like came just?
So some people, like my buddy Alex, hadn't seen him in forever. He's now managing. He's the GM or maybe he's the booker over at House of Blues in Boston. So last time I saw him, we were both in New York. So he's actually in Boston now. So some people moved back to Boston, I would say, but. Yeah, there's definitely still some people in Boston. Like Finney's still in Boston, and Finney is just a total badass boss, babe. And it was so cool because she was able to give me a tour of the spaces that she's essentially built. Right?
Yeah,
that
is cool.
It was really special.
Did you stay with her? Okay, cool.
Yeah, her and her husband met her husband for the first time.
Oh yeah,
which he's a total badass too. He does a lot of things, and his background is in like live music, and so he does. He's a sound engineer and woman. And so the band that opened up for TREOS is called Bad Rabbits, another iconic Boston band that they don't really play that much anymore.
Yeah.
And actually like the drummer of Bad Rabbits is out with Billie Eilish. It's all very weirdly connected. Yeah. Anyways, Finney's husband did sound for Bad Rabbits. So it was fun to watch him in his element. And it was the best.
Good.
Just the best.
I mean, I can hear it in your voice and I can see it in your face.
So many tears.
That you loved it.
And you know who cried the most was Brian Southall.
Okay.
Who was in TREOS, and it was the best. He's like, "You got to stop making me cry, Nani." I was like, "But I'm just so happy." And it was just the happy tears everywhere. We were all. It was a very special weekend, and I'm so glad that I went because had I not, the FOMO would have been so real. And we FaceTime friends from college because they were, and people looked at flights same day like, is there any way I can make it? And there's just no way because, going from East Coast or West Coast to East Coast, that's a hard one. But
and sold out and having to figure out, that'd be a lot.
Yeah. But
I'm glad you've had so much fun.
Yeah.
And now you're home.
Yes.
For a short period of time.
Yeah, well, we're home and we have some really exciting stuff that we get to do. And we've got the U.S. Ski Championships here.
Yeah, starting in a couple of days.
Yeah, or
tomorrow.
It's World Cup. It's the World Cup. It's the final World Ski races
for downhill ski racing.
Yeah, so we've got some fun stuff coming up. We've got Sugar Ray.
Yeah, Sugar Ray's going to be here.
Bare Naked Ladies.
Yeah,
we've got Paul Oakenfold.
Yeah.
We're going to miss Switchfoot.
Which
sucks. But it's pretty much every single day has multiple opera parties and concerts.
So much going on. Like even just this morning driving to work, like there's just events are being set up in different places around town. I was like, I didn't even know they were doing anything here. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, okay, they're doing a bunch of stuff here.
It's gonna be a lot. And
so we'll definitely provide some updates on that stuff. Yeah. But this Saturday is Sugar Ray and Bare Naked Ladies, and I'm excited.
Here we go.
I'm excited.
And then we have some fun travels ahead of us.
I'm doing some traveling finally, so I'll get to talk a little bit about travels in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But, you've obviously done a lot of traveling.
And the one thing I forgot to mention about Korea is that I met 2 girls from Kuna, Idaho.
Oh, wow.
In Seoul.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is crazy.
I know. And I was like, oh my God.
That's where my best friend Alicia lives.
Yeah. And she's there?
Yeah, she's in Cuna.
And so I was like, well, one of my best friends grew up in Payette.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? So they lost it. And it was great. I met a lot of really cool people on my travels.
Yeah.
It was super fun.
You don't meet a stranger, that's for sure.
I just love people, and I love meeting people and hearing their stories. And
you love people more than I do. That's for sure.
I would say more than like most people do. Like, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, but yeah. So that's my quick, not so quick, little recap of.
No, that's great. I mean, you just recapped like over a week of your life with a lot of exciting things happening. Yeah. So that was a quick recap.
And it was a lot of travel real fast.
Yes.
And then came back to Sun Valley, ran into somebody I knew in the Seattle airport. Of course. Just like the world is small.
The world is so small.
And when those small moments happen, it really just gives you faith in the world, at least for me.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, welcome back.
It's good to be back.
I'm glad that you've had so much fun and got to do so many cool things and that you're sharing it all with us.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you wanting to talk about it. So,
yeah. Well, and like we talked about last week, I think it's a really cool little kind of just like journal entry for you to talk about it this way. Yeah. So, and for both of us. Yeah. And all these episodes.
It's like a timestamp in our lives.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to listen than it is to read, which, oh my God.
To talk than it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. It was so funny. So I was at dinner before the trio show on Saturday, and we got dinner. So I was with probably like 4 friends, my buddy Gabe, who I've been friends with since college, and Finney and I, like, we knew we were going to see each other and we were so excited. And then I knew I was going to see my buddy Josh, and I was super excited to see him. And so the 4 of us, we were planning on getting dinner. And then we had a couple of fun additions. And one of those people was this guy who was he lives in Nashville currently. He was in that band Hot Rod Circuit. I never really listened to that band. So I was like, I know the name, but I don't really know the music. But he's a producer. He does all sorts of stuff. Anyways, we were trying to figure out how we knew each other. And we started making reference to Warped Tour. And because I think I had asked Josh in the Uber to dinner, I said, do you ever wish that you went on tour? And he's like, well, I went on tour. And he's like, well, and Finney was like, Nani, you went on tour. I'm like, not really. I mean, I did like 3 years of Warped Tour. Well, kind of. Like I did all of Warped Tour 1 year and then partial Warped Tours 2 years. Yeah. And Josh is like, what are you talking about? If you went on Warped Tour, you went on the tour of all tours. Like if you can make it through that, you can make it through anything, which is truly, that is the truth. Yeah. And so, I don't remember the point of the story now that I say it. But anyways, we were telling that same story at dinner and they were making fun of me for saying that I'd never been on tour. And I was like, well, I wasn't on stage and I wasn't like with the band. I was with my clothing company. And they all were like, Nani, you were on tour. Yeah. You probably did a harder job by setting up a tent and schlepping all the merchandise and all that stuff than most, actually. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I went on tour. And then I told them, I said, guess what, you guys? I found my journal from the 2008 Warped Tour, and they all died. They're like, no.
We got to read that.
And I told them that we're probably going to open that sucker up and read some excerpts from the diary here.
Oh, we have to.
Soon, but.
We have to.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I digress. We should get into Emo Lyric of the Day.
We should. Why don't you go first? Because I know what band you chose, at least.
Sure do. And if I didn't choose this band, it would be just sacrilegious at this point. So it is the Receiving End of Sirens, of course, and their song, The Armistice, which is so Casey, when he sings, he just has like an operatic voice. Like it's just huge. He has a huge voice, huge range. He's amazing. And so the chorus of this song is epic because everybody in the crowd is yelling it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so I chose the chorus, but I chose kind of a subtext of this chorus because
Okay.
everybody's used to hearing we're all puppets, we're all marionettes. But what I didn't realize is that there's some subtext here. So I'm gonna add all of this together. So the
Okay.
lyric I chose is we're all puppets. Tell me who's pulling the strings. We're all marionettes. We're all puppets. Tell me who's that you move for. We're all marionettes. And I kind of love this because I think it ties into like a lot of just maybe the climate that we're in right now
Yeah.
as humans. Because I do think in a weird
As
way that
Americans.
I think a lot of us can be puppets and or marionettes as it relates to social media, as it relates to a lot of things, marketing to whatever. But those lyrics are just embedded in me, and the reason why I read the subtext is I didn't realize that those lyrics were in the song until I
Okay.
looked up the lyrics of the song. The part where it says, tell me who's pulling the strings and tell me who's that you move for.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So that is my lyric of the day.
I love it.
And
I think that's
love
great.
TREOS so much.
Good. That was great.
I love them.
I have a little anecdote that I have to share now before I do my emo lyric of the day.
Ooh.
Just because you said like in the culture that we're living in, and then I said as Americans. So I watched a video about this morning or last night. Sophie Powers, who's like a newer emo adjacent artist, who's going to be at Warped Tour. I don't remember which dates, maybe all dates. I couldn't tell you. I can't keep track of who's at which dates.
Bad Rabbits is going to be at Warped Tour. At Orlando too, by the way.
Yeah, but so Sophie Powers went on American Idol this week, and like just as a promotion, because she's obviously already like,
is this the girl with the Band-Aid over her nose?
Yeah, and she performed one of her songs, which is just like a stupid joke like song that doesn't really require like singing talent, and all the judges were just like, okay, like total just publicity stunt.
Yes.
Like absolutely, that's what it was.
Yes.
But what happened was I think all the judges turned her down, like didn't give her a golden ticket. And so she said something like when she left, she's like, it's okay. This is American Idol and I'm a Canadian. Which I was just like, okay, girl, get it.
Oh my God. That is hilarious. I saw that clip too. And it is so funny.
So funny.
I didn't realize, I knew that it was a publicity stunt, but I didn't realize that was her.
Yeah.
That's epic.
So yeah, go watch that clip, and
we should repost it.
We should, because it's just so funny. Yeah. So Sophie Powers, and clearly, I think so many people are like thinking it was serious, and it wasn't.
It's
not.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my little anecdote that I had to share. And then
you pronounced anecdote correctly the first time.
That time?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You did it.
It took me some effort. So I did have a different lyric chosen, but then all your talk about Boston and St. Patrick's Day this week, I was like, I need to do something related, so I changed in the middle of our episode.
That's what you were doing.
Yeah.
I was like, what is she doing over there?
So I looked up the lyrics to I'm Shipping Up to Boston by Dropkick Murphys.
Yes.
Dropkick Murphys are also on Warped Tour. Again, I don't know which dates.
Oh, they are?
I think they are. Maybe it's Foggy Molly. Maybe I have it wrong.
I don't know, but Dropkick Murphys has been everywhere in social media right now because they just are not scared to like fight the good fight. And they've just done some really like punk rock stuff lately that just I love.
So I looked up these lyrics. And there's not a lot of lyrics to choose from.
Ship it up to Boston.
Yeah, like it's a lot of just the same line over and over again. I was like, whatever, St. Patrick's Day, I'm gonna celebrate. So the lyric that I chose from I'm Shipping Up to Boston by Dropkick Murphys is I'm shipping up to Boston, whoa, I'm shipping off to find my wooden leg.
Is that what he says? No.
Yeah. That's what he says. So
he says wooden leg. How have I not known this? That song is literally like everywhere.
Yeah. Shipping up to find his wooden leg.
This is the point of emo lyric of the day because Oh my God, that's so freaking funny. It's literally
good.
That's the point, because we sometimes have no idea. Both of us, I guess, in both of
Yeah.
our lyrics, I had no idea that the lyrics
Right.
in mine or wooden leg,
Right.
what the actual
So I read that. I was like, I gotta share that. That's so good.
dude.
So good.
Okay, well, for winner of the day of emo lyric of the day, because as you all know, I am the sole judge of this. I think I'm gonna give it to myself, even though yours
That's
is
fair.
funnier. I'm giving it to myself because I'm still so emo about seeing the Receiving End of Sirens
Totally
this
fair.
weekend, and they deserve all of the attention. And please go listen to the Receiving End of Sirens.
Yes. Okay.
I love
well,
them.
that's fair. And I think we should wrap it up.
I think so too.
Thanks for the stories, and I agree with your song, with your emo lyric choice. But that's find my wooden leg.
So good.
So
Well,
good.
we've got a really fun week ahead. Can't wait to share with you guys what we end up doing this week, and we do have some really amazing interviews lined up. So it's finally gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
We're gonna do what we've said we were gonna do for so long.
Yes, we are.
So
Thanks for listening, and tune in next week and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the Emo Hour.
and we'll post a bunch of clips from the TREOS shows and some other stuff too. We got to put that American Idol thing up, at least repost it, because that stuff is funny.
It is so good.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
thanks.
Have a good day. Bye. You're doing this right now. Oh my God.
I mean, it doesn't get better.
It doesn't get better. All right. Best outro song ever. Have a good week. We'll see you next week on the Emo Hour. Bye.